Soon. Buzz, come on.
It came! It really came! The big one.
So you're probably wondering, what's in the box?
What's in the box?
That, or you probably already read the title and thumbnail, so I can just stop trying to be mysterious and say, yes, it's a roof rack. And today really starts these big upgrades, things that are going to take this fan build to the next level from my first fan that I had and built out. So today I'll be installing the Orion ProMaster Stealth Roof Rack. All right, should we open it? A large factor in my decision to choose this rack over others is that it ships in boxes like this, so unlike full racks, you don't need a crane to install it, and it can be completely DIY to save money on the costs of a professional installation, plus you can save money on the fact that it is free shipping, so no hidden surprise cost at the end. Also, the owners are super awesome, and they have an amazing response time if you need help while putting things together. I actually emailed them with a question on Saturday, and they got back to me in less than 10 minutes. And their stickers. Oh my god, I love stickers. My last fan actually did not have a roof rack, and this video is technically a part 2 video on roof racks, so if you want to know the pros and cons of roof racks and what made me decide this was something I had to have in my new van build, I'll link part 1 in the description. But just as a quick recap, my #1 selling point on roof racks is that in my last van, I ended up getting a leak from where I drilled in one of the solar panels. This can lead to an absolute disaster of having to remove the ceiling, possibly finding mold in your home, potentially having to rip out the panels. I got very lucky and the leak stopped after I recalked it, but I do not want to take my chances again. Another concern is that if your solar panels break and are screwed directly into your van, replacing them when they're already screwed in can be very difficult and lead to more problems as well. But with a roof rack, this can make the process much easier. It increases storage space, it's better for your roof in terms of holding weight, you can mount extra lights to it, and my other big seller, stealth. With the rise of popularity of van life, it is much easier for people to look at vans now and know if a van is a camper or a work truck. Having your solar panel sticking out the side, your max air fan visible, etc. just blow your stealth factor. I think a big reason I had police officers knock on my van 3 to 4 times while living in it was because of how obvious it was that it was a camper, because I had all of those things sticking out. I love camping in big, busy cities, and that is where stealth is most important, and this roof rack is going to hide all of the elements that make it obvious it's a camper, and allow me to travel to more places confidently. But again, if you want a full breakdown of budgets, pros and cons, reviews, etc., check out the video linked below, because today is all about the installation. Alright, so now that I have everything open and laid out, I'm going over the instructions. Orion includes a video and text manual, which is super nice for when I want to quadruple check that I'm doing everything right, because unlike with building the closet or building the floor, this is life or death. Improper installation could result in an automobile accident and could cause serious injuries or death. It's a lot of pressure. Alright, so first we're grabbing the front right rail and a 65-inch piece of 80/20, and we're going to be attaching these with... These T-nuts are super nice because they make it easy to align everything just by sliding them through the 80/20. I'm sliding 3 T-nuts into the side channel and 4 into the bottom channel, but I installed them turned upward so I could see what I was doing better. I measured and moved the 80/20 2.5 inches back from the front edge of the rail. I lined up the holes in the T-nuts with the holes in the rail and flipped the 80/20 into the right direction. Then I inserted 7 half-inch button head screws loosely using the Allen wrench they included. Next, I added the rear 80/20, then the rail, and repeated all of those steps, making sure the 2 rails were flush, and added an extra T-nut for when I add the emblem plate later on. This kit came with literally everything that I needed except a tape measure, a ladder, half-inch wrench, and a 7/16 inch wrench. And after all this hard work, I was left wondering, can I limbo this rail? Well, now that I've exercised for the first time in a year and my legs are burning, we are now going to go back through all of those screw connections and officially attach them using thread lock. A thread locker is an adhesive for nuts, bolts, and screws to lock them in place and avoid loosening caused by stress and vibration. The kind we're using is level blue, meaning it cures after 24 hours but can be disassembled later on with hand tools. Here's a video clip from Loctite.com on how it works, which I found super helpful. So now I'm moving on to the emblem and cover plate. The bottom screw is 5/8 inch and gets thread locked into place. And the top 3 screws are 3/4 inch and gets 1/4 inch washers, then apply anti-seize and a 1/4 inch hex nylon nut. And I also dropped 2 5/8 inch screws through the top of the rail with anti-seize and 1/4 inch 20 hex nylon nuts. I'll talk more about the anti-seize in a little bit. And now we just make sure all the connections are tightened and then we officially have completed one side.
Sublime!
And now it's time to do the other side. So while she finishes the other side, I want to talk more about why I chose this roof rack specifically. It's 100% adjustable and customizable with the crossbars included. It's all aluminum and has a limited lifetime warranty. It's wider than most racks on the market at 63 inches, which is great because I'm trying to get the biggest and best solar panels I can for the roof, which means now I'll have more space for that as well. I also don't have to drill anything into the roof to attach these, which I absolutely love. They actually use the adapters that are already on the roof. Also, there's a lot of add-ons you can get to go with it, and one is actually there's 2 scene lights which go on the back rear panel. I'll be installing these later on because I'm not quite ready to get to the wiring stage of the van build yet, but they also have awnings, ladders, snow or surfboard poles and hooks. The other upgrade I was thinking of making is the roof deck brackets. I have an affiliate link in the description, so if you decide to go with this rack or any of the accessories, I would super appreciate if you use that. It helps support my channel and make these videos. Alright, so now we're going on to put together the front brace, and I decided I should leave one piece of this construction out so no one can attempt to use this video as a supplement to the actual instructions, and then have something go wrong and try to sue me. However, this piece is very similar to the others, just a little bit different end product, and I will also link the instructions in the descriptions for anyone who just wants to read through all of them. So now let's back up for a minute and talk about anti-seize. In the instruction manual, they give an entire page of a warning about using it. Anti-seize is meant to prevent threads from corrosion or being galled or damaged. You only need a small amount, and if you're anything like me, even if you try to just use a small amount, it can still find a way to magically end up all over anything. If this happens to you, you're supposed to clean it up immediately. Apparently it can stain your roof rack, no pressure. I tried to use a small amount, but honestly the bottle just was out of control, and I discovered that it had dripped on my sawhorses in between uses, and then it got on everything it touched. I know, I was likely the problem, as per usual, but you will inevitably see how messy I am with this despite trying to barely use any throughout the entire video. Anyway, moving on to the rear deflector panel. Sorry, you know I can't help myself. So now we're connecting 4 rear brackets using 1/4 inch flat washers, 5/8 inch screws, and 1/4 inch 20 hex nylon nuts. However, I learned that though it's not in the instructions this way, I should have also attached the 80/20 to this now. It would have made my life so much easier later on, but we'll talk about that more later when we get to it. Alright, so we've officially finished putting together these 4 pieces, which means we can finally move on to getting on top of the van and starting installing it. And thanks to my little brother for doing all of the heavy lifting and also managing to not scratch my van. He's the real MVP here. I just want to take a moment because I am so excited that this is my very first time just chilling on the roof, and this is the first of many days that I'm going to be spending up here. Whether, you know, right now it's to install the roof rack, but in the future it's going to be looking at mountains, looking at the stars, opening up the skylight at Walmart to watch some crazy people, and just the amount of memories that this roof is going to hold is amazing. And just thinking back about the last 3 years that I spent, you know, the nights I spent sitting on my last roof, I'm so excited. This one's gonna have a roof deck. We're upgrading, you know, so I'm super excited that it's our very first time. And I think there's only one proper way to christen in sitting on a new roof.
It is King Arthur. Whose castle is this?
This is the castle of my master, Guy de Luamba.
he can join us in our quest for the Holy Grail.
Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries.
Done. Hey, I'm recreating the scene. I love you. All right, so step one, now that we're up here, is to install the roof adapter kit.
Ew. Ow.
So the next step is to clean the area where the rack will be going because it is pretty yucky. And once the rack is on, I'm hoping I will never have to take it off again, ever. Especially not tomorrow morning because, you know, that would be horrible, wouldn't it? That would just be so inconvenient. So starting with the roof adapter brackets, I'm placing two 1.5-inch carriage bolts through them and sliding them onto the connection points and laying the plastic supports over that, making sure the flat side is facing towards the van. While applying these to each connection, I make sure to alternate directions of the roof adapter bracket, which makes it even more secure. Once I've done this for all 4 connection points on this side, then I bring the right rail onto the carriage bolts and roof adapter brackets. Now I place down a joining plate, a flat washer, then anti-seize, then loosely put on a hex nylon nut. And now on to day 11. For most people, they can install this roof rack in a day according to the reviews, but I am also videoing and that makes everything take 3 times the time. Plus, I may have taken a break to make cookies, but that's, you know. However, today is going to be another great day, and I know that because I started it by finding a 4-leaf clover, so now I know absolutely nothing can go wrong, right? Nothing at all. Why did you jinx it like that? No, we didn't jinx it. We just stood under a ladder for 2 days straight, and now we're getting the consequences.
I'm a superstitious man.
So I climbed up onto the roof and realized I had made a colossal mistake. So I already made a dedicated video just on this, but basically I'm caulking the seams of the van. If you want to know why and how, I'll link that video in the description, but we don't have time to get into that right now or else this video will be literally an hour long. Basically, the mistake was that I had put on my to-do list to caulk these seams when I installed the Max Air fan, but I realized this morning I was going to be covering them up with the roof rack. I think the stress of forgetting that piece that now makes the rest of the day high stress has like literally made me go insane. And how do I know this? Because I have a video of me reaching like max level insanity. You disgust me. Universal rule, only psychopaths don't break their Kit Kats in half when they eat them. I've lost my mind. I've lost my mind and we still have hours to go on this roof rack, so best of luck. So the caulk has already skinned over on top. It won't be fully cured for 48 hours. However, I'm gonna be fine to put this on top and screw these things in, and it's not gonna like just be mushy everywhere. However, I still would not recommend anyone does it the same day they put in their roof rack, but you do what you gotta do. Building a van is all about being adaptable and crying. Those are the 2 main things. So even though we had to remove the parts that we had installed yesterday, we are now repeating what we've already done on the other side of the van, installing the rail with the roof adapter brackets again. Then I installed 5 3/4-inch carriage bolts on each side of the rack and then brought up the front deflector onto the roof to start attaching that. This is so exciting! First, I slid in 2 more carriage bolts into the front piece of 80/20. Isn't she looking pretty? She's looking so pretty. Now it's time to attach the front deflector on the side rails, starting by placing in 2 5/8-inch screws in the top, then another into the bottom, and the bottom screw also got some thread lock while the top 2 got anti-seize and 1/4-inch washers and hex nylon nuts. Then I repeated this on the other side. Next, we're installing the slotted L brackets. These will connect the 2 front 80/20 pieces. So I start by bringing 2 carriage bolts up to fit beneath it. Then I applied a touch of anti-seize and somehow still managed to get it all over my hands. Then added hex nylon nuts and tightened them before repeating this step on the other side. So now I'm sliding in 10S T-nuts into the 10S 80/20 bar. And this portion is the first time I really struggled with the instructions and putting it together. So I started by screwing in the 10S size 80/20 with some screws and thread lock on the top and sides. Then I reread the instructions for the next step, then brought up the rear bar. Okay, attach to the side rails first. Their instructions say to go by the text manual and only use the video as a visual supplement, but in the video they installed the rear bar's 80/20 to the rear rail before it's attached, and in the text instructions they do the bar and then the rail, but I think this would have been a lot smoother and easier if I had attached them together before attaching them to the van, like in the video. Finally. Oh my hand's stuck. It is but a scratch. All the single ladies, all the single ladies. Okay. So now we're adding these 5/8" BL screws, but I think they kind of look like Thor's hammer, so that's what we're gonna call them. Not that I can pronounce his hammer's name, but it's just more fun that way. And now we just put these in and then we twist them to lock them, which I just think is super cool and insane and awesome. The little Milnor's Milnor's.
Jonathan?
I'm on a sugar crash, I ain't gonna fucking get.
Give me a minute. So she's almost done. I guess we're gonna go on to day 3. But first tonight, my sister and my dad and I went out for milkshakes. I think sometimes it's easy to focus too much on just pushing through our builds, always worried about the next thing, wondering when will we be done, when can we start traveling, that we just forget to stop and celebrate the small successes, or even just the joy of building and creating with our own hands, or just planning and living for the hope of it all. Sitting on the roof today, just looking out at the fall leaves, despite the bumps, it was a good day, and I'm excited to get back out and start building again tomorrow. Welcome to day 12 of the van build, and no, this is not some grand reveal scheme that I have going on here. I put on that caulk along the seams, and it does not cure for 48 hours, so of course it had to rain in the first 48 hours. So that is how my dad and I came up with this wonderful contraption of a pool tarp with a bunch of bungee cords, and it was completely safe, so let's get started for the day, shall we? Do you remember that TV show that was like America's Home Remodeling, America's Next Top Home, America's, you know, the one with like the guy? That one. So we don't have much to finish up today, but we're starting with 1/4 inch hex nylon nuts and 1/4 inch flat washers and anti-seize to finish attaching the rear panel. And the final piece we're adding today is these plastic covers that are meant to enhance aerodynamics and reduce wind noise. With a little bit of effort, they snap right into the front and top pieces of 80/20 on the rear panel. They come a bit long, so you're supposed to just use a knife and slice off the excess for the perfect fit. And now all that's left is going back through and tightening the bolts to secure the panel to the roof. At this point, you can also position the roof rack how you want it, meaning the roof rack is actually able to sit a bit more towards the front or the back of the vehicle, and you can decide how you want it to fit and look. While I'm securing these, I'm also alternating which bolts I tighten so the adapters remain flat on the roof. At this point, you may be thinking I'm actually missing something very important, but no, I'm actually not installing the crossbars today. I'll wait until the episode where I install the solar panels once I decide where I want them to go. I also decided on rear lights for the roof rack, which I'm very excited about, but I'm not ready to quite start wiring yet in the van, but I will come back and put the videos in the description where I install those so you can see the full process. All right, so I think there is just one last thing we have to do today, which is give it a test drive. Building this van's about to get a lot harder because winter is here. That's also why I have on my Santa Claus socks. There's no time that's too early to start celebrating Christmas. So we are going to now test drive the roof rack, and one, for safety, make sure nothing sounds like it's rattling around. And I also want to test out the aerodynamics, see if it adds a lot of noise. I won't be able to tell gas mileage right away. It's also now super important for me to note the added height I have on my vehicle. Sometimes I used to be able to slip through drive-thrus. I don't think that's gonna be possible anymore, but I will be measuring the van's height and then putting a sticker in my front of that height. That way I always know, and I never, go through an underpass that's too short, take out a McDonald's drive-thru.
You know,
Truck towing a trailer tried to squeeze into the drive-thru. However, even once realizing his vehicle and trailer were too big, the driver continues to push his way in, damaging both his trailer and the store in the process.
so take a look what you've done. Morning after I panic. Oh God, what did I say? Actually forgot there was a roof rack and there was a reason I was driving for a minute. I was just jamming. But it didn't fall off. We are now going 40 miles per hour and still no noise, so A+.
Happy Halloween, by the way. It was Halloween yesterday for me, but you could be watching this in the middle of summer, but really, every day can be Halloween if you try hard enough. Anyway, I am not legally responsible for the heart attacks anyone got from that video. Last Halloween, I was living in my van in Salem, Massachusetts, working on a job where I hid in dark cells of a dungeon and scared people for a living, so yeah, van life is really freaking awesome. Alright, so now I'm taking a scenic road testing out the roof rack, and I am so glad to report that even on the highway, I did not hear a difference. I would love if you guys commented your opinions on roof racks, and this rack specifically. I love when the comments can become a resource for people who are building out vans to gain more insights. We've got a super awesome community going on here, and I'm so glad for everyone who is a part of it. If you want to join us on live streams or early releases, check out my Patreon linked in the description. Also, while I'm here in this park, I took official photos of my first merch drop, and I finally got the link to work, so I'll link that below too. Alright, so now it is time for the final reveal of the roof rack. Guys, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while we installed this really gorgeous roof rack that I'm so happy and just, I love it so much. So thank you so much to Orion for working with me and getting me my dream roof rack. And I'm so excited to, take this across the country, take photos with it. It's so pretty. I'll see you in the next video. When you watch YouTube videos, do you ever like watch those kind of scenes and you just think to yourself, they have to walk back and get the camera now? So, bye again.